Anyway, something that popped up on my YouTube feed today, and so I started watching the video. This is a case that I'm going to do. The reason I want to talk about this is because it's from Manchester for a start. So Heather, you'll know this area and you probably remember this case. And it's been quite a long time since I'd seen any information about this case or anything. But the guy, the murderer in this case, who murdered an 8-year-old boy, he's now served his 25 years. He was given 25 years for murdering a little boy. And not only that, this guy, honest to God, it's a terrible story, really. Just chilling this guy. Anyway, 25 years now he's been in prison, and so he's up for parole, or he was up for parole. So I think this year or last year, he was refused parole. But the reason I want to, highlight this case again is because I don't want people to forget about what he did, and I don't want him ever to get parole. So now let's see. I don't know if you'll remember this case, if anybody will remember it. I think anyone from Manchester definitely will. And this is Darren Vickers. This absolute twonk. And he was jailed for life, but of course life doesn't mean life, does it, in the UK? He was jailed in 1999 for the murder of 8-year-old Jamie Lavis. He was a bus driver. And this was in Openshaw in Manchester. Anyway, he's just had parole denied, luckily. But I just want it to, I'm going to be doing a deep dive on this story, because this man honestly just can never come out. Because you know what he did? It wasn't just what he did to Jamie, which is bad enough. So Jamie disappeared one day into thin air, like they do. His parents, heartsick, heartbroken, looking for him, etc. This man turned up at their door, knocked on their door, knocked on the parents' door. He's the murderer. Knocked on the parents' door and said, "Oh, he was on my bus. Jamie was on my bus." And struck up a friendship with Jamie's parents. And not only he struck up a friendship with Jamie's parents, he moved in to their house. And he was living with them. And Jamie's parents had another son as well. Now, nobody knows if anything happened, if he did anything to Jamie's brother. But many years later, as an adult, Jamie's brother deleted himself. He never got over Jamie's, death. So he's responsible for 2 deaths as far as I'm concerned. He's killed 2 people, 2 boys. So I don't know if any of you have ever seen anything about this, but it literally is what they say. A man who committed one of the most chilling child murders Greater Manchester has ever seen will not be released from jail. The parole board recently met to hear the case of Darren Vickers and whether he could be released from his sentence, which was denied. He's already the 56-year-old monster. So he's only 56. So if he had been successful with parole, I mean, he'll always be a danger to children. He's just so manipulative as well. He manipulated this family, actually moved in with them. They believed him more than the police. What he did was the police, hopefully I'll be able to show you an interview with one of the main investigating officers, and this man like dug a hole in between. He was the family liaison officer, and Darren Vickers sort of put the family against him, made the family feel they couldn't trust him, and they trusted Darren Vickers. And they did not know they had a viper in their midst, that he was actually the murderer of their son. This man, honest to God, he's the worst of the worst as far as I'm concerned. Not just because of what he did to poor little Jamie, but what he did afterwards to the family. Anyway, so he's already served his minimum 25-year period behind bars, and is eligible to be considered for release in October of last year. So, as required by law, his case was referred to the parole board by the Secretary of State for Justice, with a review taking place on Tuesday. I think this was earlier on in the year. So the panel had the options to determine whether he could be safely released on licence or if he could be transferred to an open prison, but neither of them were considered suitable. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Because this man, he doesn't deserve to be in an open prison. He doesn't deserve to be, on licence or whatever. It just makes me so mad. Anyway, after considering the circumstances of his offending, the progress made while in custody, and the evidence presented in the dossier, the panel was not satisfied that Mr. Vickers was suitable for release, nor did the panel recommend to the Secretary of State that he should be transferred to an open prison. He will be eligible for another parole review in due course. And he was jailed for the abduction and murder of 8-year-old Jamie Lavis, a schoolboy from Openshaw who he groomed and snatched after he boarded the bus he was driving. But then he went round to those parents' house. He inveigled himself. He knocked on their door and said, you're Jamie. He was on my bus. I might be able to help. And you know what he'd done with him? He'd taken him to a park, and the whole of Jamie's body has never been found. Only bits of him, because they don't know what he did with the rest of him. Well, he said he threw it in the river, the rest of him, parts of him. And they've never been able to find, the whole of Jamie. It's disgusting. How could he be considered? Anyway, so more, and look at this picture. This picture, honestly, I have nightmares about this picture. This is Darren in the middle, for some unknown reason, with no shirt on. And that is Jamie's mum and dad on either side of him. And he's got his arm on their shoulders. They were he was living in their house. They thought he was their friend. He was helping. Honestly, that is one of the most chilling photos in my whole life that I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of crime photos. That one, it just makes me go cold, just because of what that man was doing. How evil is that man? So more than a quarter of a century on, it remains one of the darkest days in Manchester's criminal history. The awful crime compounded by what happened afterwards. Jamie's parents hoped for the best, but feared the worst when he went missing on a bank holiday Monday. It would take 2 years to discover his body. Just days after Jamie disappeared, murderer Vickers entered his parents' lives, playing the part of an innocent bus driver, haunted by the knowledge he was the last person to see the child before he went missing. It's like shades of Ian Huntley, isn't it? Ian Huntley, I don't know the girls, but yeah, they came here and we talked about this and we talked about that, and then they went over there. He's like, luckily, Ian Huntley was caught a lot more quickly, but this guy took a long time to catch. So he went on to front media appeals for the devastated family. even going on TV to speak on their behalf. He was their spokesperson, and he urged the public to help find missing Jamie. He would also take part in searches for Jamie, despite his knowledge that they were going nowhere. Shockingly, Vickers even moved in with Mr. and Mrs. Lavis and slept in their bed. Hopefully they didn't all sleep together. There was a lot of talk about that. He said he had an affair with the mother, but she denied it. I don't know what the truth is of that. But anyway, he definitely moved in. He slept in their bed with the couple offering to move onto the settee to accommodate him. What a twat. It meant that the man who had tricked Jamie into staying on his bus all day before sexually assaulting him and murdering him could revel in the secret of his crime for months while staying updated on the police investigation. In 1999, finally, after Jamie's remains had been found in undergrowth at Reddish Vale, Vickers was served for life, jail for life for murder, and ordered to serve 25 years behind bars. And you know how they found Jamie's body? Is because he tried to get another couple of boys, to go into the bushes in this park. He tried to get them to go in there, and they got scared. Luckily, had a bit of savvy and ran away and reported it to the police. And so when it came out and the police realised that that it was him, because the police had him on their radar, he was always their prime suspect, but they had no evidence. He had no evidence, and he was such a manipulator that he manipulated the family of Jamie so well. God, he literally does make me go. Gives me chills just looking at his face. That's how they found Jamie, because he was trying to get two other boys to go into these bushes. So, sentencing Vickers to life, Mr. Justice Forbes said, "These are truly wicked crimes." Jamie's final epitaph came from the lips of his grandmother, Barbara Lavis, who said he was streetwise, but he was a lovely boy. Now, you might wonder, just a little bit of a warning when I do finally put this video together properly. He was too young to be out, all day and all night. But I don't know, maybe it was a different time then. He sounds like he was just one of them little boys. Like she said, he was streetwise. But that's unfortunately, being streetwise, that's what killed him. So what this Darren Vickers, he had been on his bus, and he knew there would be film of him being on his bus. So that's why he went to the parents and said that, because he knew it would come out sooner or later. So he was preparing the ground. But it did come out, it was him who got him to go on his bus. Let's see. He added, "Jamie's brief life was cruelly and prematurely brought to an end because he had the tragic misfortune of boarding your bus at around 10:30 a.m. on Ashtonall Road on May the 5th, 1997. Thereafter, you carefully groomed this little boy, so he stayed on your bus for the rest of the day. You did this for your own base motives and intended to, and did, sexually abuse this little boy and then killed him and abandoned his body in Reddish Vale. You unclothed his body and left it naked on the ground." The parole board summary of this week's decision stated that the decision was made after a paper review in which hundreds of pages of evidence and statements would be considered. It added that Vickers did not seek his release or to move to an open prison. The summary also detailed the risk assessment taken around Vickers' case. It said at the time of his offending, these risk factors had included him finding children sexually attractive, his early life experiences, his decision making, his choice of friends, and his difficulties in managing extreme emotions. Evidence was presented in the dossier regarding Mr. Vickers' progress and custodial conduct during his sentence. From around 2014, he had admitted his offending to professionals and was open to discussing it further. He had undertaken accredited programs to address his decision-making and sexual offending. He has since progressed to a regime designed and supported by psychologists to help people recognise and deal with their problems. Reports before the panel established that he wished to complete further work in prison. In this case, protective factors which would reduce the risk of reoffending were considered to be Mr. Vickers' ability to follow rules and his open engagement with the professionals in this case. Anyway, so he didn't get parole this time. Let's hope he never gets parole. You know, what an awful, awful man. I mean, you know, oh, Yvonne, I know it's awful. It is awful, I know. But you know what? We can't forget it. Can't forget it deserves to be spoken about because this man, he can never come out of prison. Oh my God. How can he even be considered? 25 years. Life sentence with a minimum of 25 years for doing what he did. What sort of sentence is that? Exactly, Heather. He's a person, honestly. You know, I don't believe in the death penalty, but I could understand. Now, anyway, I watched a video today, so there's been an update. I've watched videos about this case many times, but not for a while. But anyway, there was a recent one, a YouTube video today that I watched. I'm going to find out if I may be able to sort of play it as, what's the word, fair use. And if I can, that will, because it's such a good representation of what happened. And I mean, it was it sounds fun to say it was such a good video when it's about such a horrible subject, but it was, and I think it's been made deliberately he's got to the end of his sentence and now he's going to come up for parole again and again. Maybe he doesn't want to be released. They were saying there that he'll surely be institutionalized now. I mean, what's he going to come out to? You know, people won't have forgotten about Darren Vickers, not in Manchester. You know, he's definitely as a prime candidate. So, did any of you know it? Do you remember this case, Heather? Oh, do you know Openshaw? Yeah, I just remember it because I just remember. Well, obviously, it's a case that you would remember. And I wasn't in Manchester then. I wasn't even in the UK. 1999, I came here in 1997. I came to Spain. So I wasn't in Manchester, but because it's Manchester, I suppose. And I think it's this bus driving thing. Because, you know, bus drivers, you know, they do have a lot, you know, anyway, we're not going into it now, but some bus drivers have a lot of, what's the word? You know, he sort of conned Jamie. Because people that were witnesses on the day said they thought he was his son. People saw him on the bus. He was letting Jamie run up and down the bus, you know, sit and sort of pretend to drive the bus and this, that and the other. So people thought, oh, it must be his son. You know, bus drivers have got like you know what kids are like you would love to be a bus driver when you're a kid, wouldn't you? You know, and you could see that it'd be easy, you know, it'd be easy. They're in a position of almost authority. And I tell you that I know of a lot of incidences that have happened on buses. You know, especially when people are on late night buses and in the end it's just them and the bus driver. You know, dangerous. It's, you know, you're in a position of vulnerability then. Anyway, so I just wanted to tell you about that because, you know, because as I say, it came up today. I've not thought about that case for a long time. And with the parole and everything coming up, I feel like it's time to do a video on it even. And also, it is just incredible what he did. He phoned, I think it was him who phoned Piccadilly Radio. Don't know if you remember Piccadilly Radio, Heather, in Manchester. But I'm sure he phoned up to talk to a DJ, you know, on a phone in one night to say, oh, no, it wasn't me. I didn't do anything. He was like hidden in plain sight. People sort of thought that he might have done it in the end, but because there was no evidence. Anyway, finally, he did confess to it, but he, you know, it was a long time before he did. Oh, Matthew, hi, yeah. Did she? I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that documentary. But I watched a documentary today about it. It's very recent because all the mum, my God, I mean, she hasn't aged well. The father wasn't on this. I don't know if the mother and father are still together or whatever. But you can tell that this death of Jamie has destroyed this mother. You know, and she's got one son left. So he killed her first son, you know, he killed Jamie. Her other son took his own life because he couldn't cope with everything, probably, or whatever. And this son, you know, it's not clear because don't forget Darren Vickers lived with them for a long time. So you don't know if he did anything to this other son or not. And she had one son there at the grave, you know, they went to the grave. I just thought, this man has decimated this family. How can he be let out ever? You know, it's that, you know, he's just like, he would have killed two boys out of that family for a start, really, not just one. And one is enough. Anyway, so I got sort of angry about it today again. I'd forgotten how angry that case made me and how he makes me feel sick. And that picture of him with no shirt on in between the mother and father, it just haunts me forever, that picture. It's just horrible. Did you used to listen to Mike Sweeney, Heather? Mike Sweeney on Radio Piccadilly. He was my favourite DJ on there, Mike Sweeney. I don't know if it's still going, Piccadilly Radio. Yeah, Jim. It should never be let out. Okay, so I'm going to light a candle now for all those so it's all these little ones. So there's the 3 children that were killed in Bradford. Got Elsie Dot, Alicia and BB from the Southport stabbings, and little Jamie. You know, he was just, I can't even think about this. You just think, when do they? So he thought he was a great guy, this Darren, didn't he? You know, he's letting him ride on his bus and all this, and he's probably said to him, oh, come on, let's go to the park, or when does it change? You know, imagine how scared that boy when he realises that this man who's let him play on his bus all day and he's so nice and everything is actually an absolute canut. Oh, yeah, let's light a candle. It's for all of them. Oh, prayers as well. Yeah, so for the little children, I'll tell you, it's just terrible. These people. I'll tell you, there's a special kind of hell, though, for these people who kill children. It's got to be, killing vulnerable. It's bad killing anyone, obviously, but murdering children is just like, it's got to be a special kind of hell for these people. And I'll tell you, this guy, Darren Vickers, whether he ever gets out of prison or not, he can't escape the next justice he's coming to in the next world. That's for sure.